Okay, let's see if we can move.
Greetings, Tim and Megan. I saw somebody else's name too. There was an Aaron. Is Aaron joining us?
It'll be just the two of us today.
Okay. So this is actually a little embarrassing for me because I'm supposed to be very unprejudiced and unbiased. And I know that there are some places that consider themselves really at the forefront of technology and at the forefront of education. Silly places like, oh, I don't know, Silicon Valley, and silly places like MIT, okay? But these two people are from Connecticut, where I am from, and we know that the real high tech and the real cutting edge of education is occurring in Connecticut, okay? And so Megan and Tim, this is your opportunity now to teach the people in Silicon Valley and the people up in the Boston, Cambridge area how to do things. So.
Thank you, Jake. No pressure though, huh? Tim, I think I'm going to leave most of the impressiveness for the next half hour in your hands, so you can make sure to try to live up to Miss Arushi, who is fabulous. What a wonderful way to integrate the arts into STEM pursuits. That was so impressive. What a phenomenal young lady. A tough act to follow.
Yes.
That's why I'm going home.
Introduce yourselves because nobody but me knows who you are.
I'm Megan Jacobs. I'm a STEM teacher working in Connecticut, and I am the person who founded the Connecticut MakerSpace Teacher Consortium. And Tim?
I'm Tim Hotchkiss. I teach 5th and 6th grade science in Pomfret, Connecticut. And I've had an incredible journey working with Megan over the last year.
We've done some really good stuff, and our goal today is to kind of share with you a little bit about what the consortium has been able to accomplish, and to hopefully inspire some other educators who might be looking to start up some kind of a group like this. We'll explain a little bit about how we got started. I'm going to flip to our schedule here. We'll explain a little bit about how our group began and give you some good details about what we've been able to accomplish so far. We're each going to take some time to describe what our classrooms look like now in COVID times, to hopefully give some tips about how you can still make major STEM accomplishments in the classroom, even in our less than ideal COVID settings. And then we'll take just a moment to kind of look ahead and invite you to join us on our next collaborative project. Before we dive too deeply, I wanted to take a moment to invite you to be sure you've got a QR code reader at the ready. We've got some really terrific links to share. We're going to make good use of QR codes in our presentation. If you happen to have an Apple product, you have a QR code reader already. Just turn your camera on and point it at codes that you see that look like this throughout the presentation, and that'll get you right onto it. If it's not an Apple product, then there's many QR code readers that you can download for free, and that will that'll help you to be able to access and kind of make the most of what we're sharing today. I want to start by describing how we began. It arose out of a need when I took on a makerspace position here in Connecticut. I was for many years a very, very happy 3rd grade teacher, and then I was blessed with the arrival of a very good boy named Caleb Jacobs. And after he came along, I wanted to be able to kind of split my time in a more balanced way as a professional, and I took on a makerspace position that kind of fit my time schedule a little bit better as a parent, and I loved the position. It was fantastic to be able to work in such a hands-on way with some really great kids, to integrate so much STEM into a really deserving K-3 school. I ran the makerspace. I'm sure many of our audience members today are really familiar with the idea. For those who might not be, I describe it as kind of an art room that's stocked with science materials. So it's a wonderful wonderful space for kids to be able to create. It's very maker-centered. We introduce so many 21st century skills that that are lacking in the traditional classroom setting. So it was just a terrific way for us to address a need in my community. But I did notice a little bit of a lack. It was the first time for me professionally that I was working in a vacuum. I was solo and the only person in my district who held my title. I've been so lucky in the great majority of my kind of professional pursuits to be surrounded by really strong partnerships, and I know exactly how helpful and inspiring it is to get to have terrific colleagues at your side to bounce ideas off of and to benefit from different perspectives and gain wisdom that you might not have with your own path. The diversity of lived experiences can bring so much to a classroom if professionals are able to share with each other. So I decided to go on the hunt for others who shared my MakerSpace title, who hold STEM roles in our area regionally in Connecticut. And I started to hunt up some email addresses and reach out to others who might be willing to join. We started meeting monthly online in the summer of 2019, and in the fall of that year, we held our first collaborative PD together. We hosted it at my school, and everyone brought some wonderful activities to share, and we benefited from each other's ideas and experiences. We did a Harvard Graduate School of Education course together over the last winter to help us strengthen our maker-centered curriculum and do a better job reaching kids and empowering them with that kind of autonomy. And then as COVID kind of transformed our learning centers and our learning settings, we began to meet weekly so that we could kind of better address our changing needs and be able to be more supportive to each other. And that was really helpful. I want to turn it over to Tim, who is going to explain something really great that we did to support each other and our students during COVID times.
When I started, I was fairly new to it last year, and around March, we were all one day thrown basically out on the street to teach. But by that point, I've already been with the collaborative for a month or two, so I'm a latecomer. And we came up with the idea of to have kids feel like they can do something. And I've spoken about this on the past when I've, on the gift program, about the Community Heart Project. And we had kids from all over eastern part of Connecticut, mostly the northeastern part of Connecticut. And they did projects, and they created hearts, and they put them out so that people could see them, for the firemen, to teachers, or just to the public in general. And it was very creative, and some of them turned into being whole family projects. I believe we have a couple pictures here. I mean, some of them were very simple, using Legos. The others were out marking up the lawn with stones, but we left it up to the kids, and they were very creative with the way they did it. And we put their pictures together and tried to keep a uniform. If anybody's interested in seeing the total slides, I think it was over 70 some kids we had, which we thought was very good for all of a sudden everything changing. And many of the children seemed to really enjoy it.
I think it was terrific for them to have a chance to collaborate and work together. That working together piece is so central to a strong classroom environment, and it's been so missing while we're remote or even while we're hybrid and together physically in class, but we can't get close. It was so nice for them to want to have a chance to work together and to share some love for their community too. I think there was almost like a therapeutic piece to it that was really helpful. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Tim. I wanted to share a quotation that's really strong for me to explain why I find the professional collaboration so valuable. The most valuable resource that all teachers have is each other. Without collaboration, our growth is limited to our own perspectives. I feel like that's such a strong way to kind of share how important it is to be able to have strong colleagues to collaborate with, and a diverse set of learning and lived experiences, so that you can really benefit from the ideas and perspectives that are outside of your own. So I would like to move forward and explain a little bit more about one of our next adventures. We loved getting to do a collaborative professional development day, as I mentioned last year, and we can't do one that looks entirely the same. So we're going to be bringing it onto Zoom. I have kind of our schedule here. We're planning to have a collaborative PD day coming up on February 10th, and we will be able to share invitations to any of our viewers today who might be interested. The way that we are planning to run it, we have a kind of a list of categories for different activities that teachers are willing to share, strong items that have worked really well for them. And any teacher who would like to want to participate is invited to share on the Google document and type their name under the kind of category that their activity fits very well under, and if leave a link or a description if it's applicable. And when we get together on February 10th at I think 1 o'clock in Eastern time, we'll be able to kind of go through the list on a group Zoom together, and take a moment to kind of do a show and tell and explain a little bit about what makes each of the activities valuable. That way we're still getting to benefit from the phenomenal ideas and enthusiasm from our colleagues, and be able to bring really good stuff to our kids. So that's what's coming up next for us. I'm going to give Tim a moment in the spotlight. He's got a great idea coming up to about a project that he would like to have his kiddos focus on.
Push that by me. Okay. I'm always looking for other projects, because I do things with the kids, and we really can't do it this year. I do Sea Perch, which is building underwater ROVs, and we compete with them. Parallax, building robots, circuits with 5th graders, robots with 6th graders, and some other after-school activities that we have not been able to do. What I'd like to do, the Dalai Lama and Greta Thunberg had a wonderful online last weekend, and with some of the top climate scientists around the world. And it just so happened that that's what I'm teaching my 6th graders right now. It's about climate change. And the feedback loops is what we're going to concentrate on. And the project that I'm trying to develop, and I think it might even be good to bring into the Community Heart Project when we're back in the classroom, is for the kids to design a model of a feedback loop. And a feedback loop is basically, if you have the way I explain it to the kids, and it's not the way that they explain it on the video and other readings, there's many readings out there about it, is things impact each other. And it's like driving down the highway, and all of my kids have been on the highway driving through Hartford or something, and all of a sudden it's slowed down traffic. And you get to the end of that, bumper to bumper, and there's nothing there. And what caused that? And it was basically one person putting on their brakes, and this can go down for 20 minutes, a half an hour, an hour. And this is how one thing influences everything else down the line. And that's basically what a feedback loop is. And so if you start warming up the atmosphere, and they're seeing the tundra starting to melt up in the Arctic, it releases more greenhouse gases, and that warms things up. So then you're going to get more melting and hotter, you know, things just keep feeding on each other. And the basic end result I want the kids to come back to is ending up with a green earth, you know, planting trees, maybe not paving so much, taking control. Because I keep pushing with my kids that this is their planet. Yes, it's much better, you know, the environment's cleaner than it was 20 some years ago or 30 years ago or when I was a kid. I have bald eagles right out my back door now, which I've never seen in Connecticut. But there's much more to be done. And I want them to take, whether it's something small or something large, and then I want them to teach about it. And so that's what I'm looking, is for them to come up with a project or building a model of what a feedback loop is, and then teaching, going out and whether it's teaching family or setting up we can do an after school type of thing or an evening thing, which I've done with kids in their projects, where we invite the public in and the kids can talk about it. And basically build a traveling show. And so I'm introducing them to this stuff. You know, it's hard science and it's complicated and it's confusing. One of the ways I tell the kids, you know, when we're talking about the global warming and everybody gets confused about it, is to use simple terms. And that's why I love what Alan Alda's done with his what he's done with his he's got a thing that he's set up with scientists and doctors and how to teach to the public and putting it in simple. So what I learned from Sea Grant when I've taken workshops from them is just to describe global warming like putting a blanket on, and it just keeps the heat in, and how that works. And once you do that, it's makes much more sense. You've taken the complicated part out of it. And also to teach that global warming is only part of the climate change. Hopefully I made sense with that.
Definitely.
As I said, I'm still working on it.
I think your comments about making it relatable and making it easy, like you said with the blanket, I think whenever we can bring things into kind of like a metaphorical understanding that's on students' levels, especially the littler ones, it's wonderful to make it accessible that way. You're so good at that.
No, thank you. But I think it would also work well with younger kids. I mean, it's how the teachers have a real hard time presenting this. It's like teaching evolution. You know, they just want to stay away from it. It's much easier than that way. But if you teach it right and you show,
it's important to have
good
tools to kind of bring it down and make it more accessible.
Right.
Thank you. I'm going to take the spotlight right back. I want to be able to share some kind of tips and pointers for teachers about what's worked well in my experience over the last year as we try to translate STEM and maker-centered learning into our remote or hybrid settings that we've kind of been transformed into. I think one of the biggest sticking points for me is how hard it is to create opportunities for iterative learning, for kids to work in iteration. I feel like there's no more crucial practice for kids, especially elementary age students, to have as they're kind of cultivating their practices as young scientists, than to be able to do the trial and error, to have the autonomy to design and make something and try it out, the humility to try to check it and see how they could make it better, and the tenacity and persistence to keep working on it as they search for improvements and try to make new iterations and new versions better and better and better. And I feel like this particular facet of of maker-centered learning, it has been almost impossible to try to do in a remote setting. For so many reasons, we can't share common materials when we have kids do projects together. They can't go into a common room, so we can't store their works in progress in a central spot. There are large numbers of students who have long absences at a time as they quarantine, and we might just be getting into a really good project when the school needs to switch back to a remote setting. So there's so many challenges in the way of getting to do this this really important part of maker-centered education. I want to share some tips and tricks that have worked for me for how I've been able to still implement it in my classroom. So here we go. I've got some tips to kind of take us through, and my overarching theme here is that we're trying to shift our focus from the product, from like the end result that we have them create, instead to the process. So if we can kind of celebrate the process of being a scientist, of trying things out and testing them and noticing what's good and fixing what's not. One strategy that I've used is to do a scavenger hunt when we're finished with something, and the kids are so excited to come to the Zoom meeting and bring their finished product. Instead of only using it as a time to praise their end product, we use a scavenger hunt, and I have everybody point to something about it that they changed, and then point to something about it that used to be broken, and point to an idea that was inspired by the outside world or someone else or another scientist or a family member. And that kind of shifts the focus, instead of celebrating what's done, to kind of recognizing that there was a good kind of trial and error process that got us to this point. The next strategy I have listed is a tally of changes. I started to get into the habit with older kids who were able to juggle kind of more than one thing while they were working. We started keeping just a little piece of paper with tally notes next to us when we began a project that they would do at home, and they'd be in charge of making a tally mark every time they made adjustments. And we gave prizes not for the most terrific end product, but for the most tally marks. And we had certain thresholds, like if you had 10 changes, then you got a certain amount of kind of award at the end, and so on and so forth if you got to 20, or if you had one big major redesign. By kind of systematically rewarding the overcoming hurdles and the tenacity to kind of keep trying and think about different solutions, we were able to shift that focus away from just the end product. I also used that, you might recognize the layout icon there. It's an Instagram product. It's a handy tool that you can use to group together and kind of make a collage. So instead of where I might usually have students who are remote to be in charge of posting a picture of their end product, once we're done with it, I would instead have them choose several different ones of their job in progress, and use the layout app to kind of construct a pretty collage that would show us how it came to be, almost kind of a step-by-step, so that we could see what their process looked like. And the last idea was a really fun way that we kind of ran our end of unit or end of project Zoom meeting. Instead of just going through one by one and having every kid share out loud what they did and kind of what hurdles they overcame, we did a bingo card of improvements. And as a whole class, we shared a bingo card. And when we landed on something like I needed to change, or I needed to start over, or I used a material that didn't work, whenever we landed on one of those bingo items, kids were invited to raise their hand and explain what it was that they had to change, or kind of talk us through that hurdle. So it really helped these young scientists to embrace the changes that they went through, and to recognize the value of being able to push through hurdles and kind of shift our focus to the process over the product. It was a really good way to kind of celebrate that in a way that we don't usually get to. I want to share one more screen, and
I just want to jump in real quick. That is great that you're doing that. You know, failure is the first attempt in learning. You know, I got that from Jake,
I love it.
and
It's so valuable. I think it's rare that we teach in a way that celebrates making mistakes and what you do after you've made the mistake. And I think that's such an important habit, certainly for scientists and for anybody who's planning to grow up and contribute to real life. We need to create the kind of resilience in our young scientists that we would like to see in our grown-ups.
if you're an
Jake and
engineer,
I
you got to
are
break it.
We're professional mistake makers.
Yes, I like it. What a good perspective. I know we're nearly to the close of our time. I want to share some experiments that I was able to have my kids do at home. I think experiential, kind of hands-on and tactile learning is another piece that's central to a makerspace, but really, really hard to do in a remote or hybrid setting. So my advice for teachers who are looking to integrate some more of this is to just put it on the kind of homebound assignment and not try to have it be something that they do in class because of the hardships that I spoke about earlier about inconsistent attendance and everybody needing to switch to remote at a moment's notice. So for when my kids are learning at home, we've been able to come up with so many really good activities for them to do with materials and items that they're likely to have at home already. The last thing I want to do is ask parents to incur more of a financial hardship or to have to do another shopping trip when everyone is trying to be responsible about staying at home. So these two examples to the left, my Smarties around Thanksgiving time designed a shelter for pilgrims. We talked about how when the Mayflower landed, they didn't have anywhere to, they didn't have a shelter to stay. So they constructed out of recycled materials a pilgrim shelter. And then you can see that hairdryer in the background. They were able to kind of go through some trials with their pilgrim shelter to see how it would stand up under heavy wind with the hairdryer and heavy snow. You can see the puff balls there. And then we had a similar everyday items at home activity with second graders with surface tension. They played a game with a family member and used a spoon or a dropper or their fingertip or a pencil to move drops of water onto a coin's surface. They would roll a die and try to fit however many drops the dice called for on top of their coin, and it was a really fun way for them to kind of study that elasticity and surface tension that we had been working on. It was a really good way for them to use things that were at home and to kind of appreciate family togetherness. Speaking of family togetherness, A+ segue, I want to end by inviting anybody who might be interested to join us in our next community project. Tim did a great job explaining about our Community Heart project that we had done last spring to celebrate essential workers in our neighborhoods. We're going to be embarking on a community bridge project shortly. We're going to start on January 29th of this year. We're going to invite students to use found or recycled or materials from nature in order to create a bridge. And what we're going to ask them to do, you can follow that QR code to get to our directions page and where students will be posting their pictures. We're going to ask them to build a bridge and kind of get the STEM connection with what's being physically built, but we're also going to have them include almost like a therapeutic and artistic point of view. They're going to build the bridge to kind of move them from coronavirus time into a time in the future when there's not a pandemic to contend with, or even to connect their homes to somebody that they might be missing, like build a bridge from their living room to that of a friend or family member. So I think that's pretty much going to end us for today. Are there questions that you'd like us to field? Jake?
Yes, you talked about all these wonderful things, and even though Connecticut is the educational innovation center of the universe, can people from other states and maybe even other countries join you?
We would love for that to happen. Everyone is so welcome. Absolutely.
That's part of the reason we wanted to do this here, to invite people.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for those people like myself who don't have QR code capabilities on their phone. What's the best way to connect with you, Megan and Tim?
Let me move to the last slide that has our emails on it again. You'd be so welcome to send us an email and express an interest in the Community Bridge Project or in anything else that we've shared with you today. Mine is at MPM Jacobs, M as in Megan, P as in puppy, M again, and then my last name JACOBS @gmail.com.
And anyone can contact me because I'm the one sending all those annoying emails out. And you can contact me and I will put you in touch with them. According to my calendar or my clock, we still have another minute. So Tim, I would like to make a statement and then I'd like to have you react.
I want to say one thing real fast. See how she kept me in line today? I think it was great. That's why I love working with her.
We also have a YouTube question for Megan.
Go ahead.
It says, does Megan do the Connecticut Venture Program in her school?
I would love to. This is not a mountain I have climbed yet. I was actually just introduced to it in 2019. I think my head might have been in the sand. I got to be a judge in spring of 2019 and was looking forward to reprising my role in 2020. So I'll be happy to do it when it gets rolling again. But I fully support the program wholeheartedly.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I've been involved with it that's where I met Jake. For years, and been a judge for them.
Well, that was very exciting. We have to go now because we've got some more really exciting things going. And Tim, Megan, you were great. You upheld Connecticut and I can leave the house now with my head high.
I'm so glad. Happy to contribute. Thank you for having me.
And we'll talk soon.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Stay healthy. Do something great today.